Hey there, thanks for checking in. Yes, this run starts off with 2 rider skulls. I'm a genius. Or at least that's what I'm going to call my RNG, genius. But besides being a super hot badass rider on a biker run, this is also a video where I'm going to throw out some more of my thoughts and suggestions for Skull. I would tell you to buckle up, but bikes don't have seatbelts, which is fine, because we like to play dangerously around here. First, I want to talk about skulls. The 1.0 trailer showed off the plans for a skull upgrade system, so even the more common and weaker skulls can become more powerful during a run. I love this idea, it's honestly fantastic. But to me, there's a deeper problem rooted in the skulls themselves. Specifically, the categories they fall under and the damage types that they do. The 3 categories being balance, speed, and power, and the damage types being physical and magical. Just about anybody playing the game currently will tell you that balance typically has the best skulls in it, followed by speed, and then power creeping along at the back. A lot of people, including myself, also dislike that the majority of skills in the game deal magical damage, and that the majority of basic attacks are physical. Because of this, it can feel as though certain skulls and items are far less desirable than others. For example, Yaksha and Predator are the only 2 skulls I can think of that deal 100% physical damage with all of their attacks. Even Berserker has 1 magical attack, even though the rest are physical. I think it's no coincidence that these 3 are power skulls, and are really the only viable skulls for their category. Most people don't like Warrior, Minotaur, Aqua, or Ent Skull, because they're slow, clunky, and aren't consistent. But it's their damage typing that really holds them back for me. As you play, you'll find items like Ritual Staff, Assassin Dagger, and Giant's Axe. These items are pretty cool because besides giving you a universal boost to an effect, they also give secondary effects that are specific to skull types. Ritual Staff gives 60% magical attack and also reduces the cooldown speed of balanced skulls by 45%. That's huge. Assassin Dagger gives 10% crit boost, and also increases the attack speed and movement speed of speed skulls. These 2 examples actually work very well with their respective types, because it helps to further improve upon what they already do. Giant's Axe, however, does the opposite. It provides physical attack, which you would think is good, but because the majority of power skulls deal magic, it's not. It also has the secondary effect that it blows nearby enemies away while dealing physical damage. Power skulls are already slow, have a very shallow dash, so why are we throwing enemies away from us whenever we swap into them? Shouldn't we pull them in closer to us, like how the Raven's Feather item works? Now you might think it's a simple fix, just make all power skulls do physical damage with all of their attacks. Well, I thought so too, but after thinking about it, no, that would actually make it worse. Let me quickly go back to items, and then I'll explain my solution for this skull typing problem. Earlier I mentioned Assassin Dagger and Ritual Staff. These 2 items are great examples of what I want to see more of. Ritual Staff gives magic attack, which is great. It's like having a hate stone if the effect was always turned on. It also helps balance types specifically, but the point is that it has a purpose for the other types as well, not just balance. But what if you were using Predator? Suddenly Ritual Staff is dead weight and just gets sold. There's a few examples of items like this that can be seen as literally useless without certain builds, and I think that's a shame. I propose that items be rebalanced, so that they can have a use to the player no matter what kind of build they're running. This would encourage more decision making and allow for more open build options. An example. If I see a draft stone after an adventurer fight and I have no soldier skulls or don't intend to use soldier skulls for my run, it's actually a complete waste. You feel like bad luck just cheated you out of something potentially useful. So instead, you might sell it and hope to use that gold on a better item in the shop. Draftstone is literally a wasted item slot for any non-soldier builds. What if we reworked it so that it could provide some form of help to the player? With the recent inscription change, one particular item got this very same change that I'm talking about, the Elementalist Blessing. This is the item that gives you 50% more magical attack for every spirit that you have. Prior to the update, if you had this item but no spirits on hand, then it's literally doing nothing for you. At all. You are gambling that you might find a spirit eventually and start seeing a benefit. The fairy tale inscription that they gave it makes a small orb float around with you and attack nearby enemies. So now, just having the item alone with no spirits at least provides some sort of benefit to the player, so they don't feel as though their item slot is being wasted. With an item like Draftstone, what if we gave it a watered down effect to what it already does? Let's say, make it provide the current 30% magical and physical attack power to Soldier Skulls, but it also provides 10% magic and physical attack to every non-Soldier Skull. The effect isn't too strong as to overshadow other items like the Carleon Sword, but it's also not useless. Similarly, there are items and skills in the game that inflict status effects on enemies, but these don't work on bosses. I honestly think they should, as it also means these items and inscriptions and skulls all lose value as soon as a boss fight starts. Moving on to quintessences. I honestly think these are the worst off aspect of the game currently. The idea of them is good, but the way that they function is too shallow. Quite literally, the majority of quintessences are borderline useless and bad. The passives that they give and the use effects that they provide are simply not worth purchasing from the store. You also shouldn't take these after an adventurer fight, because even selling the item for gold is a better investment in the long run. You're better off waiting for one of the few good quintessences than picking up a bad one. For example, Shadow Knights is a very good quintessence, and is a great example of the kind of itemization I was talking about. Even if you're using a skull build that only uses magical attacks, Shadow Knights is still useful to you. The 90% physical boost passive might not do you any favors, but the use effect will. It still deals solid damage, hits a lot of targets, and gives you a shield afterwards to absorb more damage. That's great. I would also like to see quintessences play a more important role. As it stands, they're basically just another item that has a special effect you can use on command. The NPC at the shop where quintessences are sold looks to be a blacksmith or crafter. What if the idea behind quintessences was that they're a powerful tool that we, the player, have to create through our runs? Similar to how skulls are going to be upgradable later on, quintessences could be created by us. The blacksmith NPC could sell us different parts so that we can mix and match effects based on the build that we're getting. Ever want Ravenlord's 100% magical boost with Troll's critical effect? Now you do. You could also add new use or passive effects on their own and allow the player base to explore these combinations and find what they like. Giving players more options for builds and wider possibilities will encourage more exciting results. The inscription system and the ability to restock the shops are leading in this direction already, and I don't want quintessences to be left behind. This leads me to the grand conclusion of what I think should happen. The removal of skull types entirely. Balance, speed, and power, get rid of them. Currently, there's very little reason to even have these typings. Only items like the Ritual Staff, Assassin Dagger, Giant's Axe, and the 3 Bones really focus on them anyway. So let's rework Ritual Staff as our example. Currently, it gives 60% magical boost and reduces cooldown by 45% for balance. If balance as a type was gone, then this item would work for everybody. But needing a balanced skull to get that bonus was a condition, and we've eliminated that. So rather than just give a free big power boost, we need to rebalance it. Given its rarity, I would reduce it to 50% or even 40% magical attack, and let it reduce everybody's cooldowns by 20%. Now, even if you had Yaksha or Predator, you can still benefit from the 20% cooldown reduction. You don't have to immediately sell it off, just like we did to the Draftstone already. The 3 bone items would probably need to be nerfed about 50% or so to prevent them from being too good, considering that their condition is also gone. By removing the types, we can focus all of our efforts on balancing physical and magical attacks. Suddenly, a Minotaur doing magical damage with his skills isn't a total drag, because you can genuinely build him as a magical attacker. If you got Mana Bone or Ritual Staff along the way, it isn't a complete waste for him anymore. You are maximizing as much as you can without wasting effects or bonuses that you could get if you had other skulls or better luck. Now, while I was writing this, the developers were nice enough to reveal a new roadmap for the future. Besides what we already know, some of the new things include the adventurers getting stronger. I'm very happy about this. It's one of the things I've wanted for a while now. There are also some new NPCs being introduced, but they haven't disclosed much besides one of them, the Grave Robber, who is an NPC who will take Dark Quartz from you in return for skulls, items, and quintessences. That's all we've been told about the NPCs, but hey, there's something else to spend Dark Quartz on. They also want to reform cooking so that the food gives more interesting effects. But also, interestingly, they plan to rework quintessences. So maybe the devs are already 3 steps ahead of me, as the quintessence problem is already on their radar. They also mention adding a new game mode to provide more of a challenge. I think it would be really cool to build in challenge settings to enforce restrictions on the player. You could have a run where your second skull slot is locked out, or all of your items break 3 rooms after you've picked them up. Quintessences could be a one-time use, but have a chance to drop from enemies. Fun ways to spice up the runs. Now, I'll leave a link in the description below so that you can check out the roadmap for yourself. And that more or less brings us to the end. Just some suggestions and ideas from me about how I would tackle some of the problems that I see in the game currently. I'd love to hear your ideas and thoughts in the comments about both my suggestions and the roadmap as well. But that's going to be all from me this time. I thank you wholeheartedly for taking the time to listen and watch this super cool double biker bonanza. I love you all very, very much, but it will never work between us. So I have to break your hearts and let you know that we have to keep this relationship purely Skulual. I hope to see you next time. Have a good one.